Peace be with you. Welcome to the Institute of All Intelligent Life. My name is Alan Kiesler, and today is the 10th of October, 2016, and our class today is about Paul Hellyer, who was the Defense Minister of Canada from 1963 to 67, I believe. And I just want to show you his picture here for a moment. I'm having a little trouble here. Okay, here we go. So this is Paul Hellyer. He is now 93 years old, and he is the highest ranking government official in the G8 nations who has come out and spoken openly about his belief in UFOs and extraterrestrials, and he's been speaking for several years. So let me just find my notes here, sorry. Yes, so he was the member of Canadian Parliament from 1949 till 1974. For 25 years he was a member of the Parliament in Canada, and for several of those years, from 1963 to 67, he was the Minister of Defense. From 1967 to 69, he was the Minister of Transport, and in 1969, for some time, he was the Deputy Prime Minister. So he is a very leading figure in an important country in the Western world. So I'm just going to talk a little bit about him today, and then we will discuss some of the things that he has revealed. Probably the most important thing that he's said is that there are many extraterrestrial species. A few years ago he mentioned that he knew about 4 of the species, and more recently he has said that there are actually 80 species of aliens that we know about. So he has taken a very wonderful position that the same thing basically I've been saying, and many others have been saying, that our cabal, our Illuminati, the secret government, the people who are controlling our planet, or who thought they were anyway, and have done a lot to manipulate humanity, they are preventing this information from coming out, mainly because they will lose control of the planet if this information comes out. So he has said that we have gotten a lot of technology from extraterrestrials, and they are willing to give us more, but we must first become less warlike, stop fighting all the time, and stop polluting our planet. And the main thing that will accomplish that is just this program that I've been talking about, that many extraterrestrials have been advising us for a long time. That is, we need to become more kind and loving, more peaceful, more, instead of being selfish and just trying to get what we want for ourselves, we must serve others. So a very interesting thing that happened just recently this year is that Hellyer, again this is the Honorable Paul Hellyer, former Defense Minister of Canada, he said that a former emergency chief of Canada, this is also a cabinet position I believe, the Canadian Chief of Emergency, he didn't name him because this gentleman had been in a very responsible position, again many years ago, and because he was the chief of emergency, in case there was some emergency in Canada about extraterrestrials, the United States government had invited him to come to the USA and learn more about extraterrestrials, and he was taken to Area 51, and he was shown an extraterrestrial craft. He was taken inside of it, and he had to sign a vow of secrecy that he would never tell anybody. And he never did tell anybody, even his wife, for his whole life. But as he was dying on his deathbed, he decided that he would break that vow and he would reveal this information. So he had his friends contact Paul Hellyer, whom he trusted, and he told Hellyer the details about how he was taken inside of this extraterrestrial craft. So there are many people who have done this. They've taken vows of secrecy, and then at the very last moment, as they're on their deathbed, they decide, nothing to lose now, let me reveal this. So, of course, Hellyer has been talking about this now for several years. It was in fact 11 years ago, 2005, was the time when he first came out publicly about his belief in UFOs. And he began demanding that the governments of the world release the information they have about alien technology that could solve the world's problems, climate change, the pollution, poverty, eliminate the need for oil, for fossil fuels. So more recently, as we all know, I hope you know, but Russia has been very proactive and very positive in releasing information on its mass media about extraterrestrials. So he has done interviews on RT, that is the Russian television, about this information that he has discovered. So I'm going to see what people are saying. Sir, can you write in Urdu? This is not what we're talking about. Yes, I can. But, sir, what do you think about Imran Khan? Again, this is a little off the question. I don't know what Imran Khan may have said or what he believes about extraterrestrials, but if I did, I could answer this question. If he's a good politician, he may be a good politician, but there are very, very few good politicians, because if you're a politician, you have to, practically, you have to lie, and you cannot do things straightforwardly. So, but let's get back to Paul Hellyer, who was a politician. He was a member of parliament, but he was one of the rare good ones who, at least, he's now 93, so it means he was, what, about 82 when he first began talking about extraterrestrials, many, many years after he had been in office. So there are many persons within government who are trying to get the word out about extraterrestrials, but the mass media will not cover them. In fact, one, you can research him also, is John Podesta, Podesta, John, John Podesta, who has been closely associated with Hillary Clinton's presidential campaigns also. He's been involved in the government, and he has been trying to get people to become aware of the existence of UFOs. He's trying to get, for years, he's been trying to get the government to release its information. He's been filing requests, freedom of information requests from the United States government for years. And what always seems to happen when the requests are filed and they find out, because he often knew there was some information in some place, but when they got there, the files were missing. So this is what's going on in the world, and this is why people like Hellyer are trying to get the word out, but it's hard to get the documentation from the governments because they're so horrible in concealing this information. They go to the extent that they either deny that the information is with them, or they say the files are missing. So Assad King is asking, what are your thoughts about general politics in USA? Do you believe all these presidents get elected and they're all basically puppets? Yes, obviously they're all basically puppets. And they can't do what they want to do. Some of them have been very eager to get information about UFOs and extraterrestrials and get it out to the people. In fact, Jimmy Carter, who was the President of the United States in the 1970s, he saw a UFO himself before he became president. He had seen a UFO. He had filed a report, which you can look up, Jimmy Carter UFO, on the internet, and you should be able to find without difficulty that document. It's available, where Jimmy Carter filed a report saying that he himself had seen a UFO. He was with a group of, I think, 15 or 20 people, and they all saw it. So when he became president, one of the first things he did, I think the day after he became president, he called the CIA director and asked him for the UFO files. And the CIA director told him, "I'm sorry, I can't give you that information. That's on a need-to-know basis. That is, only those people who need to know this information for whatever reason are allowed to have it, and you aren't considered to be on a need-to-know basis." So even the President of the United States could not get the information about UFOs that was there with the CIA. So obviously the President of the United States, who supposedly is the Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces, and obviously he would have to know about something like UFOs, but the CIA or other persons who are concealing this information, they wouldn't even let the President of the United States know. So clearly, yes, the President of the United States may not be able to even find out what to speak of act on information that he might be able to get. Tahir Usman is asking about the Rendlesham Forest incident. I do remember hearing that in England. There was a case where a UFO was seen on the ground by some military personnel. Yes, that's another. There are hundreds and thousands of such incidents. But again, fortunately now it's coming out more openly, and more people are talking about it who have seen it. And some, not in the United States, not in Pakistan, not in most countries, but some countries are beginning to officially publicize this information, for example, Russia. So Asad King asks, do you think these UFOs might be angels? Because as Muslims we know there are obviously lives and creatures out of this world. I have wondered this very same question, that some of the UFOs that are described, for example, in the Bible, there are several. In the book of Ezekiel, for example, it describes wheels, and wheels within wheels. So a wheel up in the sky. A wheel up in the sky sounds very much like a flying saucer. And so it's possible that some of the extraterrestrials that we are in contact with may be what people used to call angels, and they are actually angels. There do seem to be some differences, but it's very possible. In fact, several people have written books about the possibility that the UFOs that we are seeing were chariots of the gods, or were the craft of angels, or they were, appearances of the angels that were called, those beings that were called angels in the past are now called extraterrestrials. So I think it's not very simple. It's probably very complicated. There are many different types of extraterrestrials, we know that. Some are obviously not angelic, they're more satanic, and some are very angelic, very good, very kind, very helpful. So it's a possibility that some UFOs are angels, but there are obviously others that are not. Have you seen, Ahmed Noor asks, any extraterrestrials during your meditations? Also, have you seen spiritually the bases on Mars and Moon, like during meditation? I have seen extraterrestrials during meditations, and I've seen extraterrestrials outside of meditation also, physically. I've met some extraterrestrials. I have not ever meditated or seen spiritually bases on Mars and the Moon. I've not tried that. It's possible. There is remote viewing, which is another scientific development which has been concealed from the public, but the American government at least, and I'm sure other governments, have been developing remote viewing, as it's called. There are even American officials who have spoken about it. This was a CIA program for many years, and they supposedly closed it down because it didn't work. But remote viewing it's like a sort of meditation. It's going into a trance and being able to see what's going on at a distance. And the United States has been using this for a long time. Even during the Cold War, United States CIA officers and remote viewers were, for example, viewing Russian, Soviet submarines, finding out where they are by remote viewing. So it certainly is possible to see bases on Mars or the Moon by this practice. So I'm trying to... Yes. Yeah, it's very important to understand these things because it will transform our society. This is why Paul Hellyer and many others are appealing to the governments of the world to release this information, because it will solve many of our problems. The need for oil, coal, natural gas, all of which are polluting, some more, some less, but they all create problems for the ecosystem. That will be completely finished once the technology that extraterrestrials have been using and have been sharing with us, but our governments have been keeping secret. Once that's revealed, all these problems will be solved quite quickly. And perhaps what's even more significant is that the banking system, the money system that we have, all the countries in the world use even paper money. This money system is a way of manipulating humanity and enslaving humanity. So the persons who have enslaved us by this money system don't want that knowledge to come out. But if extraterrestrials, if the knowledge of extraterrestrials is revealed widely, then that will also end the money system. We will find out it's completely unnecessary. So, okay, Akhlaq Hussein is asking, Adam initially was equally powerful as our angels and jinns are. He was transformer like them, but later he was descended to earth to take the test by Almighty. Thus, world is like a prison for a Moomin. Yes, this is a nice point. I can agree with you that this world is like a prison in one sense, because there are many powers that we have which we are not using, which we may not even know about. Just like somebody had earlier asked about in meditation, have I seen bases on the Moon and Mars? It's possible for any human being to develop that remote viewing capability. It's within our genetics to be able to do that. But we have been suppressed. Our natural abilities have been suppressed. A few days ago, somebody had asked about or commented about the pituitary gland, the third eye, which is right in the middle of our brain, and which is it's really like the eye. It actually has a retina, just like these eyes do. But it sees remotely. It sees far away. So now, in this earthly condition, in our present condition, we are not using those abilities. So, as Akhlaq Hussein says, Adam initially was equally powerful as our angels and jinns. Yes, we did have these powers. We do have these powers latent within us, but we have been badly trained, we have been suppressed. Often children have abilities like this, and when they start talking about things that they see, the adults just think they're just making it up. But actually, children often exhibit these powers, but they are suppressed. Their parents and friends and the adults say, no, that's just your imagination. But actually, it's not. We can actually do things like that. So in a way, we are in a prison here like when you're in a prison, you can't wander around freely. So actually, as I had mentioned, Robert Monroe, some time ago, Robert Monroe wrote several books about traveling outside of the body. Every human being can do this, but we have to be trained. So Robert Monroe and his Monroe Institute does this sort of training. I attended one of their trainings, a 10-day incident and a 10-day program, and I did travel outside of my body, so I know myself. I had done it before also, but I know it's true that this is another power that we have been denied. It's there within us that we are not. It's like being in a prison. You're right. It's like a prison for everyone, that we have been imprisoned within this body on this planet, whereas actually we are free. Like at night when we sleep, we dream, we travel. So we can also travel when we're awake, but we just have to learn how to do it, to go into a meditative state. Assad King asks, why does UFO doesn't directly contact media or come straight out in public? Actually, they have come out in public. Probably the most famous one was in 1952. A number of UFOs flew over Washington, D.C. There was, a lot of speculation about what had happened, who it was, but this is common knowledge. You can't find it real easily, but if you do a little research, you'll be able to find. You look up 1952 UFOs over White House, or over Washington, D.C. Very openly, the UFOs came out in public, but the media didn't cover it. So, and now it's been covered over, denied, but it was very, very public. So from time to time, UFOs have come out directly, but usually they don't, mainly because they offer us our freedom, and that would be interfering. And this is a prime directive, as it was called in Star Trek. There is a very important rule that one should not interfere with the affairs of a certain planet. Let them evolve or let them develop naturally, without interference. So extraterrestrials, the good ones especially, they generally avoid interfering. But some of the selfish ones, they have been interfering. So one reason why they haven't come out more publicly is that they don't want to interfere with us, with our free will. Of course, there are other reasons also. For example, I have mentioned this earlier also, there are some UFOs which are from underneath the ground in our planet, just like the one I have seen. I've shown this picture several times. I drew this. This is a craft that I saw first when I was 9 years old, and had again seen when I was 45, externally. And this was the personality there who was the captain of that craft. So she told me that her people live underneath the surface of the earth, although tens or hundreds of thousands of years ago they came from some other planet. But they have been living on this earth for a long, long time, but they are concealing their presence for us. One reason, they don't want us to bother them. That seems to be one of the reasons, at least, why they don't directly come out and contact the public media. They are doing it carefully, gradually, in such a way that we can all retain our freedom, our free will to do what we want. And because they're much more powerful than we are technologically, they could easily overwhelm us, but they're not doing that. Walid Ahmed Khan asks, what are your thoughts on the 1111 time synchronicity many people have been experiencing? 11 number phenomena. I wonder if there is any connection between number 11 and global frequency. I've been experiencing this phenomena for years. Yes, I have too. In fact, it just happened, I think yesterday it was, yesterday or the day before. I looked at the clock, it was 11:11. This happens all the time to me, practically, if not every day, every second or third day. Yeah, not only 11:11, but 5:55. There are other repetitions of numbers. And another thing that has happened to me again and again, if I look at my Facebook page and I see how many views there have been or how many likes there have been, often it's something like 555 or 404 or 111. So there is something. I really don't understand it all myself, but certainly it's some sort of message from somewhere. Somebody is letting us know, yes, you're doing something right, or that's the message I get from it, some sort of confirmation that it's not, nothing is by chance, everything is under higher control, and just keep on going the way you're doing things. You're being watched, you're being protected, you're being helped, so be happy. So that's what I take this 1111 synchronicity to mean. So I'm just wanting to return to our topic of Paul Hellyer before we end the class. And it's very important. He's now 93 years old. He's doing everything he can to get the word out. He's attending conferences. He's revealing information about his own contacts with people who have actually seen alien craft. So I'm also now speaking publicly as much as I can, trying to get the word out. So please also participate in this, I ask you. Not just what I'm doing. Please do share my posts about extraterrestrials. Please do talk with your friends about it, and do your own research. Research Paul Hellyer, Paulhellyer. He actually has a website which is not about UFOs, because he's also a prominent, he was a prominent leader in the Canadian government, and he is now working for financial reform. So his main website is about that. But if you just look up his name, you'll find many articles about him, interviews with him, and YouTube videos of him speaking. So please relay this information to others, not only what I'm saying, what Paul Hellyer is saying, what Corey Good is saying. I've mentioned a number of whistleblowers. Please continue to do your own research, and when you find out something and you are convinced that it's true, talk with your friends and family about it and share it on social media. So I think we have one or two more comments. That Walid Ahmed Khan is saying that this 1111 synchronicity is from God. Yes, it may be. Akhlaq Hussein, I think this is a very important point. Yes, there is a difference between spirituality and mysticism. In spirituality you try to gain powers, but in mysticism you are looking for God only. God should be the top priority of intellectual curiosity. So it depends, you may use one word in one way or another word in another way. Some people use mysticism to be the effort to grow, to gain powers, and spirituality to be looking for God. So it doesn't really matter what words we use, but yes, there are two different paths, you might say. One is higher, and that is the search for God only, and to learn about God, and to develop love of God. And then there's the search for powers, for psychic powers, mystic powers, including, as I mentioned, things like remote viewing or out-of-body travel. That is something many people are interested in. I've been interested in it also, but it's not the really important thing. The top priority of intellectual curiosity, as Akhlaq Hussein is saying, should be God only, because that's the real highest, ultimate achievement that we can come to. And these other things, they may be helpful, or they may be hindrances also in the path to God. If we use them properly, these abilities, if we develop meditative abilities, remote viewing abilities, which we can, telepathy for example, we can contact, we can speak with beings who are physically distant from us or who are in another dimension. It is possible. Every human being can do it if we are properly trained and properly evolved. And those powers, those efforts to gain powers can be successful, and they can be helpful. Or they can also become a barrier if we become very puffed up and proud and misuse them, because some people do. They misuse the powers they get. And many militaries have used these powers for their own selfish purposes and not to the benefit of humanity, which can be a barrier, an impediment in the path to God. So thank you very much, Akhlaq Hussein ji. That is a very, very good point you make, and I agree with you completely that many different powers, psychic powers I would call them, that we can develop are on a lower level of spiritual development than the pure-hearted attempt just to connect with God. That is also the ultimate purpose of human life, is to realize God, to understand details about God. And I think I will end this class with those comments. And I thank you all very much for watching. And if anyone has further questions or comments, you can please come to the class tomorrow. I am going to do this now daily. I was not planning to do it originally. I was hoping that if I restrict my reply to comments on the class and restrict it to people who have paid the tuition, then I would get some money from this, because as I've plainly said before, I am in financial difficulty. I don't have a lot of money. I don't have enough money to pay my upcoming property tax, for example. I don't have money to freely travel to Pakistan like I'd like to. So if people will give donations for the knowledge that you're getting in this class, I would appreciate it. But I've decided I'm not going to try that restriction, because some people may have very good questions and may be very sincere and may not be able to pay. So I'm not going to insist on that. I'm going to answer the questions that I receive in the comments during my classes as much as I can. But I'm requesting you, please go on my website, allintelligentlife.com, all A-L-L, intelligent, I-N-T-E-L-L-I-G-E-N-T, life, L-I-F-E.com, and there you can pay tuition for attending this class, or you can give a donation. So I would appreciate very much if anyone who is watching this or who sees this and gets some knowledge out of it, gets their questions answered, please do give a donation. Okay? Thank you very, very much, and I look forward to seeing you again tomorrow morning, 6:30 Pakistan time. These classes will all be half an hour at least, and if I'm feeling like it, it may go on for longer. If I get a lot of good questions and we have a good discussion, I will be willing to go on longer, but we'll end the class today, and I look forward to seeing you tomorrow. May God protect us all.